It was a very rough summer for Russian drone and missile attacks on Ukraine, and these last few days certainly did not put an end to that trend. And in fact, as I'm recording and releasing this, we have another air alert. Go to shelter, do as I say, not as I do. So on September 7th, there was a extremely large attack on Kyiv. It was very loud, and in fact, one drone that was intercepted did hit a nearby apartment building to me, though thankfully there were no casualties. However, across town, they were not so lucky. One apartment that was struck, 3 people died, including a mother and her newborn baby. In that same attack, the Russians struck the Cabinet of Ministers, the office building that the Prime Minister works out of, along with the heads of other government departments. This was initially thought to be a drone because it only put a hole into the top floors of the building, but it actually turned out to be an Iskander ballistic missile. Had that ballistic missile detonated, it would have destroyed most of the building, though thankfully it was a dud and did not explode. There were no casualties in the building that day. And finally, in that attack, and animal lives are not worth as much as human lives, but it is still a tragedy that a Russian drone struck a equestrian club in Kiev, a horse stable, and killed several of the horses. It was a very loud night. I did not sleep well, but that has become the norm and has been for a very long time. 2 days later, there was another tragedy where the Russians dropped an aerial bomb on the Donetsk town of Yurova, small village just to the north of the city of Slavyansk. Many of these frontline towns are now populated largely by the elderly, by retirees who simply cannot afford to leave. Their house there is all they have. And in fact, when this bomb struck them, they were in line to collect their government pensions, the only income they have in their retirement. And as they were waiting to collect these pensions from the postal workers, the bomb struck them while they were in line, killing 24 and injuring another 19. For context, this village had a population, before the war anyway, of only 1,840. Tiny. And certainly many of them have left. So these 24 were a significant part of who was still there. Another part of the Donbass that Russia wanted to destroy while they were just waiting in line for their retirement checks. And remember that as American support for Ukraine has largely come to an end, so too will Ukraine's supply of air defense gradually dwindle.